Greg Stewart Show. We have a great story for you. It's actually one of my cases that I was dealing with an individual, and let's see what you make of it there by commenting on the show, and that really helps a lot. So please, again, subscribe, like, share, and comment. But without further ado, let's get into the story. The man who cheated for 30 years and wanted my help as a coach to help him keep doing it. So welcome back. Welcome back to this area of relationship meets psychology, where the truth doesn't whisper, but it echoes. You see, today's episode, it's not about love. It's not even about marriage. It's about self-deception and the dangerous illusion that can outsmart consequences forever. This is the story of my client, Eli. Eli, 71 years of age, but if you looked at him, you would be amazed. This man lived for fitness. He had the body literally of a 31-year-old. This is a man, though, who spent 3 decades living 2 lives. One in the daylight and one in the shadows. And when it came to me to meet with him, he said, I'm requesting your skill set as a coach. Because frankly, I know a psychologist and their moral values, or a psychiatrist or anyone else, priest or anyone, would not be able to help me with I think a coach can help me with. So I was intrigued. But then I come to find out he wasn't looking for healing. He was actually looking for a strategy. And that strategy, as Eli walked into my office, he had total confidence. This was a man who believes he's beaten life at its own game, whatever that might mean to him. He was tall, lean, very muscular, skin tight, posture strong, and his eyes were definitely sharp. He's like, I'm 71, but I don't have a body of a 71-year-old, as you can tell. So a lot of confidence that someone may even say, well, this person is cocky, but at 71, maybe you have the right to be. Because he would title himself, he goes, look at me. I look like I could run a marathon, don't I? I'm that well built. Then he tells me he met his wife, Meredith. So I know at this point, could this be about the marriage? He says, let me tell you a little bit about things. So he had to have control. And I said, by all means, please do. I want to hear your story. He goes, well, my wife, Meredith, we met in college. I'm 71. She's 62 at the moment. She's an accountant in New York City where we live. Both of our children are grown. Everybody's stable. You know, I know what my kids do, and, you know, they're very responsible. Then he says something that tells me everything I need to know. He goes, hear me on this. And whenever someone says hear me or listen again, another thing that they want your full focus, your full attention. He said, in reference to my wife, people look at her, and I guess they wonder about me too. Like, how was she with you? Now, maybe that was something in his past in reference to, but you're 71, she's 62. I'm sure they accept her for who she is, especially the people in your circle, but I didn't see anything. He said, people look at her and think she could lose a few pounds, and quite frankly, I wish she would. You see, I stay in shape. I take care of myself. And there's a part of me I feel that I deserve more. Now, he doesn't say it with cruelty. He says it with entitlement, like he's describing a gym membership he's outgrown. And that's when I realized Eli's body never aged, but his empathy did. There was no remorse. There was no feeling in reference to the person who helped build his identity to where he is comfortably today, retiring at 70 years old and now 71. Doesn't give any credit for the people in his circle. It's basically, I am me, and that's it. He's the one musketeer, one for all and all for none. So, moving forward with Eli, as I begin to listen, Eli didn't come to me, I realized, because he wanted to fix his marriage. He came because, as I said, he recently retired. And retirement took away his favorite hobby. And what that hobby would be might come to a shock because it wasn't golf. It wasn't consulting the newer generation, and it wasn't the travel that he did quite often. No, his favorite hobby was cheating. As he leans back in the chair, and when someone leans back in the chair, that usually tells me psychologically, you're really comfortable. You see, you never close a deal with someone who's comfortable because they're not going to really give you the response of stress. You want to get that response by relieving stress. But for Eli, he was already leaning back in his chair, which means he was totally comfortable with what he was about to say. He said, can I call you Greg? And I said, you can call me anything you want. He goes, okay, I'm going to call you Greg. I don't miss the work. I kind of miss the fringe benefits, with a little giggle. He said, you see, it's like talking about airline points. For over 30 years, I've traveled everywhere, from Asia to Europe to South America. I've done conferences, seminars, many consulting gigs. People look up to me. They admire me. I've helped them in so many ways. And I deserve the things I get in life, I feel, because I've given back so much. I'm not to say I didn't receive very well compensation, but, I come home, kiss my wife, grill on Sundays. I play the perfect father because I believe I am. And then I pack a suitcase and I go on to my next affair. Maybe wrong choice of words. My next consultation or event. So I'm thinking now, listen to this guy. No longer travels. He no longer has a cover. And he no longer has excuses. And that's really why he's here, isn't it? And I said that. So what is it that you want from coaching? And he says, as he leans forward, for the first time I see him now, not as comfortable, elbows on his knees, looking around slightly, slight smirk, which could be anything. Voice low, he says, Coach, so now I'm no longer Greg, by the way. You notice how the situation changes. Coach, I need a blueprint. You see, Coach, I have a lot to lose. My assets, for one. My reputation, for two. My wife, for three. And my retirement. I want to keep everything and still get my needs met. Now, what he calls needs, I call wants, but I didn't bring this to his attention yet. But these are not needs. Needs are must. I must have a roof just to make sure that my house and myself is protected. I must have food for longevity of life. These are the must of life. I need money to have these things. But he's seeing his infidelities as a need. So at this point he pauses. Then he says, in all serious, but he has a smirk, can you help me have my cake and eat it too? This was a unique experience for me. It was almost as if time sat still. Not because of what he asked, but because of how comfortable and casual he asked it. Like infidelity was a hobby he didn't want to give up. Like the consequences were optional. Like morality was negotiable. I almost feel as now I'm one of the clients in his consultations. This is exactly the pattern, how he addresses his lifestyle when he was working. And I'm just one of those objects of control to tell you what would be the best thing for all of us. You see, this wasn't a man seeking guidance. This was a man seeking permission. And so I sit forward, and Eli, I want to talk to you about coaching, but real world coaching. Well, what's that, Coach, or Greg, or whatever one that you prefer me to use? Again, another controlling statement. And I said, one, real coach wants to bring the best out of his team or teammate. And he does this, or she does this, by telling you what the team, in this case you, stand to gain and lose. So here's what you stand to lose is what I'm going with first. Because if you get caught, all those things that you came here for, that you're concerned about, your finances, your respect, your marriage, your children's trust, the reputation you built, maybe even your peace of mind and your soul. At this point, he shakes his head, again with that smirk. He goes, I'm going to interrupt you for a minute. Another control statement. I thought, I don't want to lose the money. I'm 71. I don't want to go back to work at my age, as if none of those things I brought to his attention really mattered. And so I say, Well, you're asking me to help you protect the very things you're actively destroying without even knowing. He goes, that's a pretty strong word there, fella. So now I'm not Coach Greg, now I'm fella. You notice the disassociation that we do when you're not getting a need met. Now, you're not fighting an enemy out there. I told you, you're fighting the enemy in the mirror. That's the person who's destroying you. That's the person who's doing things that are not must, but are wants. Now, he doesn't like that. For the first time, I've actually seen a different emotion. He didn't feel the same control. But mostly, when I deal with people with similar psychologies, if you will, they rarely do like to hear the truth. So I shift the conversation. Eli, you didn't come here for a strategy, I feel. Again, these are my statements of what I feel. But you did come here for some form of justification. You want someone to tell you that your impulses are needs, and they're not. That your habits are identity, and they're not. And that your desires, this is your destiny, and it isn't. But here's the truth. You're not addicted to cheating. You're addicted to the illusion that you're untouchable. I've noticed this in our conversation, and there's nothing wrong with confidence. But your confidence borders cockiness, and your cockiness borders that you're untouchable. So you're addicted to the illusion that you're untouchable. And at this point, he avoids eye contact. He doesn't show submission. He looks away with that little giggle. He's composed himself. Then I said to him, retirement didn't take away your freedom, but it did take away your hiding place. And now he's face to face with the life that he built. Put him as a third person. He didn't like that too much. And this is the man that you became. Now all of a sudden the room gets quieter, as if for once maybe I struck a nerve. See, there was the kind of quiet where truth became really loud, and he stares at the floor, the first sign of submission. For the first time, he actually showed his age, not physically, but spiritually. Like a man who suddenly realizes the shadows he played in for 30 years are now following him home. I tell him, if you truly love Meredith, your wife, I emphasize that, by the way, so he can see the person that stood by him, you need to decide this, whether you want a marriage or a mask. And if you don't love her, then the honest path is to leave with integrity and not betrayal. Karma doesn't always come fast, but let me tell you, Eli, everyone I've ever met, moments in my youth, also myself, it always comes. It doesn't respond, but it knows when to come, because you know deep down, I'm right, otherwise you wouldn't be here. It's not because, how can I get away with it after retirement? You've been retired for a year now. And I know that there's a pattern that you came, what you thought was you were finally accustomed to, and you just want it because that's what you're used to. At least that's what you tell yourself. At this point, he stands up and he says, this wasn't helpful at all. And he walks out. And again, not because I failed him. He actually got a reality check. But because I told him the one truth he spent 30 years avoiding. You can cheat on your wife. You can cheat on your vows. And you can cheat on your life. But you can't cheat the consequences. And you can't cheat yourself. Not forever. Some people don't come to coaching for growth. Some come for permission. That's right. And when they don't get it, they call it unhelpful. And they'll emphasize it's their whole life. I don't believe in coaching. It's never helped me. I've tried it. You might even know that person, just a different circumstance. But the truth is, sometimes the most powerful coaching you can give is the one that forces someone to face themselves. And that's what I did with Eli, because Eli, he didn't want a coach. He wanted an accomplice. And that's not what I do. You see, I don't judge him. This episode isn't about that. It's about understanding the psychology of a man who built a life on secrets and then panicked when the shadows disappeared. Because when the hiding place is gone, the truth is all that's left. I want to thank you for listening. And if this story resonated with you or someone that you think it could help, well, reach back to us. You can always leave a comment and emphasize anything that we haven't connected on. Reach at gregcoaching@gmail.com. These are real stories, and sometimes they don't always end neatly, but they always teach something. Hello, everybody. This is Greg Stewart again. And before we let you go for the day or evening or wherever you may be, I want to address something. A behavior like Eli's. The question might be, where is this developed? Well, there's PTSDs. There's some things that we didn't see. There's abandonment issues. There's so many reasons why we do what we do. Because here's Meredith, his wife of over 27 years. Okay, and here she's been there for him. She's professional. She's given him children. So physically, she's not what he once expected or was used to, according to him. But the love was always there. And what happens when someone is more superficial? What does it say about that person's identity, especially when they climb the ladder as well as he did? And people are admiring and looking at them. And those are two standards I want to connect on, because in this world, we only like two kinds of people. People that are like us or people that we admire. So here is Eli. He's reached such a threshold, such an ego lifestyle. Because people did. He emphasized, people admire me. I'm at the highest level. People come to me for advices. I'm helping companies and making people and businesses better. So he built his purpose. And then he felt, I should have the rewards from this. But did any of these people, did they ever make you feel loved like Meredith does and did? And who knows if they're still together. Remember, he didn't get what he needed, so to speak, but she met every other area checking off the boxes. But the one thing that she couldn't fix, or none of these relationships, is the person he became. The Eli in the mirror. And he would utilize, I'm a great athlete. I'm as if, look at my accolades. Look at what I've been able to do. But do you really love who you see? Is the addiction really fulfilling something else because you can't look in the mirror? I cannot begin to tell you how many people I meet like that, where they'll wash it away with a drink. They'll wash it away with porn. They'll be like Eli, country to country. Look at the pattern. No one to commit to. No one, just a hit and run. See you, thanks a lot, move on. And this is his lifestyle. Even when we were speaking, he tried to control the narrative. He didn't want to see me as Coach Greg or what. He disassociated constantly. He would go around in circles, not to build connection, but just to get his so-called need met. So if you know anyone, if any of these things, that you see in people, basically investigate psychology before we judge. But if it does come out as clear as what Eli brought to the attention, to the field of play, maybe ask yourself, look at his PTSD. I wish we had that amount of time to do that, to give me some insight. But again, Eli had to control the narrative, and he made sure that that was the perspective that he was looking for. I just want to know, what would you do? Now, he did say that wasn't brought here. He goes, well, for the year that he was retired, that he did play the field a little, but it was a little more scary for him because it was so close to home. Now, Meredith does work full time. He said she doesn't plan to retire for 2 to 3 years, so he still has an open window of opportunities. But what happens when you're home and you have to do more? What happens when you continue this lifestyle? And I wish we had the opportunity to elaborate more on that. But again, he didn't come in for coaching. He came in for a perspective of, this is what I want. And he's also the type of person, if I pay for it, this is how I want it. This is how I want the dish presented to me. I don't want any alterations. This is exactly what I want. So, again, I hope this story was helpful to you folks. And again, thank you for listening to The Greg Stewart Show. Until next time, have a great day or evening, wherever you are.